be taking part, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Tammy's not coming.
Oh, just a few of them?
It's
Yeah.
a special group here today.
Well, we don't have to be this close, and I know we're close, but, you just don't like me. I love you. And, feel
Yep.
it. Just like Dustin, I love him and I hate him at the same time. Sometimes. You just said she
All
hates
wrapped
you.
up.
She loves me, so she's just
I
not
get-
used to seeing me as often.
I love
right?
you all the time, but
And
when
I
that
love
means-
you all the time.
So pulse diagnosis, everybody. So what we're gonna do, we're kind of gonna do an introductory. So we can get the idea how to read a pulse, what some of the ideas mean, and how we can actually apply it.
Yep.
So we're gonna start out with a fair bit of theory, and we're gonna be asking questions, some of the stuff we already know and what we don't know. And then we're actually gonna be doing some pulse taking on each other, and I'll go around, we'll feel pulses, and we'll just see what each other feels, because it can be pretty subjective. It can feel quite different for each of the people. So we're going to start with just what is a pulse? Because sometimes people might just think what a pulse is, and they just think the blood. Just pulse means blood, but it's more than that. There's literally pulses everywhere, all around us. Like when you turn that light on and off, that's a pulse, turning on and off. And what's the frequency that pulse goes on and off? And it becomes a form of information. And we start to develop rhythms and see the patterns of what's turning on and off. So just, yeah, we'll start with it. So we can have a single source. Let's say something's coming in direct, and you have a direct source of energy. And there's not really a pulse yet. It's direct, just a direct source. But then all of a sudden you turn it off for a second and turn it back on. And now you're starting to get this shape where it's alternating between.
Can pulses, let's say I put my hand on someone, can my pulse interfere with the other person's pulse and they kind of
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because again, so the pulse in a body, it's going to have a pressure wave. So, well, I'll just answer that in just a little bit. I'm going to summarize a little bit here.
Okay.
So we're going to just talk a little about pulses, what they are, what they actually are inside the body. We're going to look at directions, because most of what understanding what a pulse is understanding directionality. So we have up, down, left, right, in, out, and then we have kind of a container like all around it. So we want to know what moves what direction, and then to that we're going to apply emotions. We're going to start looking at what emotions cause energy to move in what direction, and kind of what style of movement that they do. What is that going to do? And we're going to get right into that. And then we're going to look at the pulse position. So from this point of view, we're going to be Chinese medicine. Traditional. So in Chinese medicine, there's all sorts of different. They would anciently take it at the neck, the abdomen, the ankles. We're doing a more standardized version. This is commonplace since the 1930s. And so we're going to be taking the pulses at the wrist. So this is just a little standard model that we can have. So you can just, anyone can learn it just at the wrist. And then to make things simple, so what we're trying to do is we're going to create 5 dimensions, or I'm going to call them axes. They're all a different degree of separation from each other to measure a pulse, like just the tone of the pulse, the speed of the pulse, the size of the pulse, how fast it's going, and what's inside the pulse. So just as we get these little directions, we'll be able to, because once we map it out, then your mind is going to be able to put it together once it starts to know actually what it's looking for. And then after, we're going to just see some common clinical pulse patterns, just things you might have seen before. They're very common. So you go to feel any regular person, someone you know, your mother, your daughter, your friend. And exactly, you might even know what their pulse is before you even touch it if you just start applying their personality and what's going on. Yeah, like before, maybe later we'll even write down what we think our pulses are going to be, and we'll see what they are.
Don't cheat.
So just something fascinating so you can get an idea of like how pulses work. Because we have pulses of light, and so we have blood in our system, okay? And each time our heart pumps, it creates a pressure wave inside the vessels. So inside of those vessels, the blood is actually moving really slow. So the blood moves quite slow as compared to there's a wave going inside of all the vessels inside of us that constantly hits the end and bounces back and returns to the heart. So we constantly have this pressure wave that's moving through us and in everything really. But more than just
We're out oceans.
we are we really are. But the ocean's slow, but the waves travel faster than the debris. Just like the power in the walls has electrons that flow, but as those electrons flow, so they're like trucking along. They're trucking along in their little wave, and the electrons are moving slow, but that wave can move the speed of light, or very close to the speed of light. So it can communicate information very, very, very fast, which is pretty amazing. What was your question, Justin?
That because I noticed with my clients, right, when I'll touch the nerve, and it will actually kind of mimic my nerve, and I'm just wondering if you take a pulse for too long, will it kind of mimic your pulse?
Okay, so good question. And yes, pulses can be entrained. Children's pulses. Oh, no worries. Oh, yeah. So children. So basically, we tend to attract ourselves to coherent people and personalities. So if someone's really organized, they have really nice space, you're gonna feel very comfortable in it. You're gonna be drawn to it. It's like a grandmother, a mother. It's like, okay, they got their shit together, perhaps. And anyway, so we feel drawn to that, and we tend to mimic their patterns. And children will change fast. Children have a really ability to shapeshift in their pulses.
Yeah.
But the more rigid a person becomes, the more limited a person becomes. You can actually feel certain pulses, especially in the liver position, which we'll get to, that when that position becomes locked, the person is really narrowing how they see the world, and they see the world the exact same every day, and their pulse will not change. So if a person is very stubborn and rigid, you're not going to influence them.
You're not. I
Taking,
can't influence your
taking their
pulse.
pulses. No, it's just like
You're stubborn and rigid.
yeah, and so that'll be more
We'll
of a
all feel the same when we take her pulse.
a tight. It'll be holding on.
Yeah.
It'll be very tight.
So if they're super stubborn, then no matter what, like, does that apply to frequencies as well? I know I'm
Well,
going
they'll be
ahead.
locked. That's okay because we got an intimate group here today, so we'll ask and answer lots of questions. Because that's a person who, okay, they grew up in a small town. They know Billy's going to drive by at 10 o'clock. They know the mail truck's going to come at 11, and he's going to eat the same jam on toast at 12 o'clock, and that it's going to repeat the next day. So the pattern is self-repeating, and there's not any room for change. Like, sure, there might be an emergency. Someone's going to pass away in the town, or someone's going to call the police on someone, and then the ambulance is going to come. But even that's within their patterns that they're expecting. And that person will have a very rigid pulse.
Okay.
And the trick to healing is try to break them, because we're getting into another thing all together. But again, trying to get them to see or experience outside of their natural rhythm.
Yeah.
And get their pulse to change. Yeah, and so with this, so we're going to be doing with the wrists, but we can take a pulse anywhere. We have cranial sacral therapists. Hold behind the head, feel for the cranial sacral fluid or the cerebral spinal fluid going up and down the spine. And
it will still work even with cranial sacral fluid.
absolutely, because the axes and the dimensions that we're going to learn today, and that you're all going to understand and being able to see them after that, they apply to everything, every vessel in the body.
Yeah.
You could feel someone's eyes,
Mm-hmm.
feel the pulse coming off of them. Any aspect of it.
Wouldn't a cranial sacral pulse be fluid? Because isn't it like every, I believe it's every 5 minutes your body reads.
I'm not sure the exact time.
Yeah, I'm not
But
sure.
but actually, so by the way, it's tied to your breathing. So a lot of people
Okay.
get chronic illnesses, especially with face trauma or concussions, because whenever you take a deep breath, the pressure inside of your body increases. So as that pressure increases, the skulls in your the bones in your skull, they expand. So you take a deep breath, pressure increases, your skull is going to expand.
Okay.
And as you exhale, the pressure decreases, your skull bones contract, and that's what pumps your cerebral spinal fluid, which has its own rhythm, which has its own frequency.
Mm-hmm.
What we tend to measure frequencies in this time is, have you guys heard the term hertz?
Yes.
And does anyone here know what hertz means?
I learned it in school.
Once you hear it again, you'll never forget.
Hertz isn't a frequency, but a hertz is kind of like a rate of pitch. So
Okay.
a wall gives off a certain amount of hertz. So a piece of wire or something.
There's a lot of mystery in this word, but once you hertz, all hertz means is cycles per second.
Cycles per second. Okay.
So
I knew it.
we can easily, we don't with the school here, but we forget these things. Sometimes we just think there's some magical electrical thing.
Mm-hmm.
But so when someone's brain is operating at 4 hertz in a frequency, that's 4 cycles per second. So 4 hertz.
Yeah.
So it's a basis of measuring frequency. Because frequency, you could change the measuring of a frequency. It's all just the perspective that we're coming at it. And hertz is just because we're stuck into here in Roman numeral time. We measure with hertz quite often. But if you're an astrologist, you could just start measuring in celestial time.
Yeah.
Based in lunar cycles or moon cycles or whatever it is, the pulse of the planets. It's really wherever you want to take it, but we tend to use seconds a lot because we're all locked into them in our own colloquial rigid society.
Yeah.
So that's how we can understand the unknown. You know what I want to do here? What's your name? Takiri? Okay. You know what? Just for some class interaction, and because you were the first person that I know what hertz mean, can I get you to read this out loud for me?
Oh my God. You're lucky this isn't a big group or I would say no.
Yeah.
This whole thing?
Yep.
This course is designed to change how you perceive the pulse. Rather than memorizing qualities or patterns, you will learn to feel the pulse as a living expression of how the body organizes pressure, movement, and regulation through time. We begin by understanding the pulse as a signal, not just a beat, and develop a universal language of directionality that allows you to interpret what the body is doing before labeling it as pathology. From there, we build a structured system using 5 core axes: vessel tone, size, flow, speed, and depth, so that each sensation you feel has a clear place and meaning. As the course progresses, we integrate emotional movement, physiological patterns, and real clinical cases, allowing you to see how the pulse reflects both internal states and external influences. Through guided hands-on practice, you'll develop the ability to distinguish resistance from motion, structure from flow, and surface from depth, while learning how to synthesize these into a coherent clinical understanding. By the end of the workshop, you will not only recognize common pulse presentations, but also understand how to interpret them as dynamic, adaptive processes within the body.
You hear that? Great job.
Thanks.
Great job.
Megahertz.
So that's in the thousands. If I believe a megahertz, is it? I guess Megahertz is just 1,000 cycles per second.
Okay. All right.
And then there's got terahertz. There's a lot of things operate in these. Gigahertz, like
Yeah.
you got the household phone, like 5.6 gigahertz,
Mhm.
whatever it is. And I believe those are millions. So they're actually cycling at like 5.6 million cycles per second.
Is that
Yes.
why the majority of heart rates are so high nowadays? Is because of all those?
Yes, but why do you think that is?
Well, it could be because of the anxiety, but all that is kind of resonating off you anyway now.
So we're going to get into a lot of basic foundational yin yang theory, which is just understanding opposites, such
Okay.
as hot and cold.
Okay.
So anything that's cycling that fast tends to generate heat.
Mm-hmm.
So as a wave, I'll show you this in a sec. So cycles per second. We have a cold wave, we have a hot wave. So you see the smaller and the smaller they get, the frequencies are cycling faster, but their amplitude is getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when you think of between 4G and 5G, so 4G, the waves are bigger. 5G, the waves are smaller. So they can't travel as far because they
really?
get obstructed.
Hmm.
Like an AM radio tower, waves are kilometers long. That's why they can travel across the country unobstructed.
But they don't. But they're not as strong as.
They can't transfer as fast
Yeah.
because their frequency is a lot
Yeah.
slower. Yeah, see? And so these are just foundational aspects in regards with these phones with radiation. So these act more like lasers almost because they're so fine, but they're carrying so much energy in like small but very fast moving packets. And so basically, those phones will increase heat in the body.
Okay.
And what is increasing heat in the body going to do?
Burn you.
It's going to clean it
Can-
out.
It moves your blood faster.
Because that's exactly what you said. It's going to increase the speed. It increases metabolism. Heat speeds up, cold slows things down.
Okay.
So again, a basic yin yang theory, and we'll tend to attribute heat to yang, masculine, and cold to yin, more feminine.
Yeah.
Yes, night and day. Night and day again.
Cold more feminine. What's that mean?
So
I'm just kidding.
I get it. It's super beautiful, but again, because
Look at my logo.
there it is. You got it around here? No,
No.
can you see it from here?
No,
No.
painted. It's
Okay, so yang being more expanded and rarefied. So this air, invisible ether, electricity is all more yang. And then as it condenses and we have more structure, like when things become fluids, things become rocks, things become part of the more material world or more manifested, that's yin. That's the feminine. That's creation. When you're taking everything just from thoughts, which is all what us men are doing all the time, thinking, and you actually do something with it, that's feminine. But then you can have yang within yin and yin within yang, and you can do that infinitely. So it can get very, very, very complicated. Okay. So why the body uses rhythm to preserve meaning. A body can put so much information inside of a pulse. Let's just, why not? I'm just going to explore the field here. So each one of your organs has its own frequency. It's got its own functions. The stomach cycles itself at certain frequencies. The liver is going to take things in and out at certain frequencies. But everything has roads and highways connecting itself. And sometimes they can get out of sync with each other, and the information starts flowing backwards. I'll figure that out. The body uses rhythm because it allows information to be structured and repeated. A continuous signal will be difficult to interpret because there's no information. Like if we were just stuck with a light on all day long, we wouldn't know when to sleep. We feel like we're getting tortured.
Yeah.
We wouldn't know when to eat. We wouldn't have these signals to start to do stuff. When do you go to the bathroom?
like some people have no pain.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like they're being held. Like they're not actually. Sometimes they're not allowing the polarity to switch when you're holding something emotionally in place for such a long time. So the rhythm, the pattern of the rhythm allows the body to communicate changes in a way that can be recognized and responded to. We've all seen a person with a poker face all the time, but how often do they actually show their emotions? And we can actually put a pulse on that. Like the frequency could be never. You know, and that would be a direct current. It just, or maybe you would say one. They came out smiling and they lost their smile at some time and they never came back.
Yeah.
But what is that? The pulse is a step down expression of the body's internal coherence. So here's an analogy I want to kind of bring across is that let's say you have your parasympathetic nervous system. So we have our sympathetic nervous system and we have our parasympathetic nervous system. And the parasympathetic is more rest and digest. And then we have our sympathetic, which is more fight, flight, and freeze. And you can kind of imagine the parasympathetic as more of a direct current. It's a tone that's. Quick question. Can anyone think what a direct current would sound like as a tone?
Be peaceful like water.
Gail's got it. Kind of if the stream never stops. Because the stream might stop in spring, or so the spring might stop when summer comes around, but then it starts roaring again when the winter melts. So that's still got a pulse of one every once a year.
Yeah.
Stop start. One frequency per year. You could turn that into seconds to turn that into hertz if you could do the math.
Yeah.
But I don't know the math. And exactly. So a direct tone is, and it's never going to stop.
Okay.
It's a low frequency, and it's going to carry the tone that's going to guide things. Well, sometimes there can be parts inside of our system that it can't manage to sustain that tone all the time. And you have the direct tone, and it's going to break up that tone to within its own bandwidth. Let's say something has a
Theoretically,
yeah.
if you have that tone on a constant stream, can you technically live forever or no?
Well, kind of, because now you're asking.
Sorry.
I'll give this analogy in a second because
Yeah.
it's very profound, and why not go here? But okay, so let's say you got this bandwidth, and let's say that's the direct tone over time, and then all of a sudden it has to switch to this smaller bandwidth. So its frequency range has shrunk. So what this is going to have to do, it's going to have to break it up into different patterns. But what the beautiful part is, all the information is encoded in the patterns as that entire tone. So let's say you're a soul of light, and you're a direct soul of light coming in, but you can't express that all in your body all in one moment.
Yeah.
So you have to create an infinite complex amount of pulsations that represents your life, but that entire direct frequency is still there. We just need a whole lifetime to express it, to understand that pattern. I know that's a doozy, going that right off the get-go. But it's a step-down expression of the body's internal coherence. It carries the same encoded information as the original signal, but in a narrower bandwidth that can be felt, allowing complex internal information to be translated in a form that we can perceive. So that's what we're trying to do when we're taking these pulses. We're trying to take those complex information and get back to the source and see what it's actually trying to say. So directions, because before we get to emotions, because we're going to talk emotions and what they can do, we need to talk directions. And usually, we often talk about 7 directions. And in Chinese medicine, we throw in an 8th direction because we want to stand outside Exactly. So we start off with, so now we're getting into the kind of the foundations of creation, which is really cool. But we start off with a single point,
Mhm.
and we call that center. So as we go through our entire life, sometimes we throw ourselves off balance. Sometimes you feel the weight of the world, just you feel like you're not balanced. Sometimes you literally might close your eyes and you feel a little bit dizzy, like you're not fully centered. And this is why this guy created a salt room
Mhm.
so that people could go in and get rebalanced. So
Yeah.
you-
Way to go,
Realign
Justin.
themselves.
Yeah.
Because
Way
I
to
went
go,
in there for
Justin.
the first time today, and I got off the highway. Like it's nice to last a little bit of the drive, but got right off the highway. It's not, you're driving a buck 20, buck 30 sometimes, and right into the cave. It's fantastic
Hey,
because
I appreciate it.
once you turn off that barrage of external senses, everything starts to go back inwards because that's the first direction, the center. So we have a single point. Your single. You all got the little circle picture, but you got your single point, and that is the absolute center, the 0 point. There's a lot of names in ancient traditions that you could call this. And then you can introduce the 4 directions. And technically they're all the same, but we're trying to understand directionality within a 3D space. So it can go up, it can go up. We got up and down. So now we have something that came from stillness in its center. And for whatever reason, it has become excited. And by the way, anything that does this is going to start creating waves in a field. Depending, whichever way it goes, if it's in a field, it's going to start creating waves inside of it. So we have up, down, we have left and right. So now we have 5. Center, up, down, left and right. We have an inwards, kind of like a diagonal. And then we have the outwards. So that's our 7 directions. We would say, and we have center, northeast, southwest, above, below, within, center. But in Chinese medicine, excuse me, we also have an 8th direction, which is kind of the containment. So that's when you take everything and basically kind of create its identity. So this is how that being knows itself. It knows what it is. I love this class. This is such a foundational class. I've been dying to teach this. But this is how we know ourselves. This can be even a depiction of our ego. It finds the boundaries and then it returns to center. So things go out, things go in. So I actually call this the ancestral cloud because you have your point of creation and it defines its identity. It creates its perturbations in the field. And once its movement stops and it discovers all of its forms of directionality, it's going to stop moving again. But if you see clearly, what you've established is another sphere. And this whole thing this becomes the next expression and generation of itself. Because it becomes the next form of stillness. It becomes the center, and it can create the greater waves within the greater field all over again. Because it's developed its boundary. And once something has boundary, it has self-containment, and then it can identify itself as something and perceive itself
Interesting.
as something.
If you break boundaries, though, can you still heal?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you're redefining because technically if you broke a boundary, something comes in or out, you'd either have to expand or contract.
Yeah.
And it would just change your identity layer.
Okay.
Change the complexity of what's inside. But inside it's technically part of you.
Yeah.
Unless you want to remove it as part of an aspect of yourself. So directionality is super important, depending on what we want to focus on.
Yeah.
Do we want to focus on our internal world? Are we a person that is dedicated to our job and our families our entire lives, and we don't have enough time to work on ourselves. So we're constantly working on the external environment when all we need work on references when all we need is a hot bath with an hour to ourselves, or we need a mini vacation to a place that we've always wanted to go to.
I like that.
I like that one.
So we can again, so that's like between looking inwards and outwards. And we also have, just like with astrology, whichever contain within this, we have east, south, west, and north. We have the beginning of the new day, the pinnacle of sunlight, where the bounty starts to come. We have the west, where the sun's setting. You have to kind of start doing the silent reflection of the day, or just taking everything in. And we have the north, where essentially it's going full circle. It's like a seed that's contained the whole experience, waiting to be germinated again in the springtime. But so we can use these directionalities to provide meaning, because if we don't, they're just like, what's the difference between a direction? How can they serve us?
So you're explaining how anybody can heal themselves.
Well, yeah, like that's what we're getting to, because identity is really important, and a lot of things come from what's within our boundaries, what's within our identity that we want and we don't want, and the struggle of removing it or bringing.
I like the arrows for the shoot out there. Get away from me.
Yeah,
Don't bring that in.
it's amazing. Okay,
That's the way to explain it like this.
Yes.
let's see. When we say something is moving up or down, what does it actually mean? Let's see. Direction is not where something is how it's actually moving. It describes the preferred path of force within the body. Up, down, inward, and outward are not locations, they're patterns of movement. So it's just how our perspective works and our trajectory through space. What are the basic ways a body can move pressure? The body organize. Okay, just as we talk about pressure, we just had that rain. We've heard the term barometric pressure before. So what do you think pressure is doing to our body?
Contracts.
Bingo. So if we have an energetic field, which is compressing.
That's why our heads go.
Remember that cerebral spinal fluid with the cranial sacral? So that pump is fighting more external pressure. That's putting forces on it to contract and consolidate and loses expansion. So we all have these times. Just do you get the headache or the knee when the rain? Do you feel the rain?
Oh, my back, yeah.
Ah, yes, yeah. So things are, if someone has a compressed nerve and it's raining, or whatever weather it is that increases the barometric pressure, so like compressing the spine, compressing the nerves, or even just that little bit of extra compression. You're feeling the pressure of life. It makes us stronger, but that's what pressure does. And again, less pressure, things expand. There's an expansive nature, everything starts moving up and out and away. And so, depending on where you live, it's going to have completely different cycles of pressure. Depending on what the moon's doing, the moon is going to increase the barometric pressure. It's going to do a lot more than that, but that's why we can feel the moon sometimes. It's changing literally pressure gradients within our bodies.
So waning moon puts more biometric pressure than.
I believe the full moon puts more pressure when it's going overhead.
Yeah.
Just like there's animals that can pick up, because we can too. That's obvious. But there's different animals that pick up the different cycles and different pressures. Like if you take a oyster and you take it from the ocean on the East Coast and you move it to the middle of Saskatchewan, you're in Regina. So you put that oyster in the complete darkness in a saltwater tank, and for a bit it's going to open and close as soon as the moon was above it at that location. But after 2 weeks, it's going to recalibrate itself to the cycling and the frequency of the moon.
Huh.
All it takes is 2 weeks, and a little bivalve creature has now completely rechanged its circadian rhythm
Huh.
to the moon.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's pretty wild how cycles affect us. So it can contain pressure, lose containment, or return to center. These directions from the basic language of how the body adapts. Okay, so what does the body do first when something changes?
It gets stressed.
Stress from the pressure?
Yeah.
Okay, before structure changes or symptoms appear, the body changes direction. Back to directionality. It shifts how pressure moves in order to adapt. So, just like your bone structure will completely change and recrystallize based on how you hold yourself. Like if we're lean forward or lean back, if we're on the moon or we're on the earth with just the gravity density, it's going to change how it actually holds itself and change its structure based on the forces that are being enacted on itself. Direction is the first response, and then everything else follows from. Can we see direction before we feel it in the pulse? Because we know that direction shows up everywhere.
Sorry, say that question again.
Can we see direction before we feel it in the pulse?
No.
Just a yes and no, and just in different ways.
Okay.
Direction shows up everywhere in posture. You can see if someone is collapsing downward, lifting upward. In breath, you can feel expansion or constriction. In speech, you can hear the pressure rising. It could be holding or withdrawing. So these are opposites. Opposites of each other, yin yang. The pulse reflects the same patterns already visible within the body. Can more than one direction happen at the same time?
Yes.
Because certain organs have certain affinities that we're going to get as we get into the emotions that play big roles on the body. The body rarely moves in a single direction. We know this. We can walk forward. We can walk backwards. What's this little guy's name that was here? Lyle can jump up and down and going up backwards, catch a
All at
fish,
the same time.
Yeah.
spin around.
He has a lot of directions.
So that's what children have. Children have more directionality because they become less rigid. Because they are less rigid. Because this goes into forming identity. Identity naturally creates limitation because the less that you are everything, the more that you are everything, the less that you are actually something. And with this example, I usually like to explain things as a stem cell. You guys familiar with what stem cells are?
Yeah.
So we have different levels of them within the body. So when sperm meets egg, that's the most undifferentiated form of stem cell. They call it a totipotent stem cell because within those two things, when they collide, they have everything that the cell needs completely to replicate an entire human being. It's all there. It can go in any direction of the lineage, express itself whatever way the environment is going to act upon it.
I saw a beautiful picture of what actually happened at that time. And that's not what we're taught.
Oh, like
It
the
is
Flash.
So beautiful. It's like a whole world in itself. That's really beautiful.
It is.
Yeah.
I almost got the goosebumps.
Yeah.
So it's neat. Each one of those. So this is where science meets spirituality. So each one of those has its own electrical gradient when it happens, and it'll create a completely different color. So all those flashes have a completely different, unique signature imprint on that creation when it happens to help it, imprint on it and express its growth. Beautiful, that splash. Oh yeah, stem cell. So we have the totipotent stem cell. And differentiation occurs when things become cells, like a liver cell. Like a liver cell can't be an eye cell. It would have to de-differentiate and move backwards and become more nothingness, become simple, less specified, and to retrain itself. Because the children, again, they're less rigid. You don't know what they're going to do, but as we become older, we have jobs, become more stable, more structured. And it's just that between the two, we know multiple forces can exist together, such as upward pressure with inward holding. These patterns layer on top of each other, creating more complex expressions that can be felt in the pulse. Just something I'm having my own realization in here. This ancestral cloud can be an expression of every single day. Every single day, your body moves in all those single directions. It creates that identity and that containment, and then it repeats. It creates that new structure and does it tomorrow. And again, it's going to move from when we're in a thinking state, we're in a very high frequency. So brainwaves. You may have heard some things about brainwaves before. Just to continue this little triage that we're on. Delta waves, 0 to 4 hertz. This is deep sleep. Theta is 5 to 8. Then we have alpha, 8 to 12, and beta, 12 to 30. And then they go into gamma. That's anything that bursts below it. So we have these big waves that are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So when we're sleeping, we're this low frequency carrier wave. And when we're awake, we got these high frequency thoughts. And every day we take all these high frequency thoughts and we have to integrate them back into this strong, simple standing wave. A coherent pattern that we can repeat the next day and start doing more weird.
No wonder everybody's messed up.
Yeah, because we're constantly, because sometimes we get too much during the day, too much new sensory experiences, high vibratory experiences, but we can't integrate them back into the major pulse. And like the slowest pulse is always the carrier wave. So the sun cycle around this planet once a day. Maybe negative hertz. I don't know how many seconds there is in a day, but we all attune ourselves to the sun. And then, so whatever the slowest carrier pulse, it is the modulator. It is what carries the signal. Just like again going to sleep, you start to slow down. You sit on the couch. Your heartbeat slows down. Then your breathing starts to slow down, and that slow breath slows your heart rate down. That slow heart rate slows your brain waves down until you can finally get to that deep sleep state. So again, that's trying to get that low pulse is going to bring things to a state of recalibration. Fantastic. Okay. Emotions. So we got them, right?
Oh, we're getting into the heavy stuff now.
Sometimes you wish you could be autistic.
Well, yeah. They can see patterns. They're just seeing patterns, bigger patterns, swallowing them all at once, or just having a directional view that is completely different than anything around you. So you don't fit in to the societal wave.
Yeah.
The pulse of society, you might be opposite, a deconstructed wave that's they're annihilating each other, or you could be something completely different. Completely different. Okay. So anger. So now we're going to take the emotions and we want to figure out first what direction they move in. when you're experiencing emotions, and then what certain emotions, what the chi looks like. So how the energy actually, it might just not be in a single direction. It might be a mixture of directions, and how that's actually affecting on the body. So just starting out with anger. We've all seen an angry person before.
Speaking of anger, my husband
It's,
is
you know, hot-headedness or short temper. Just a quick switch. Um, so we've heard the term hot-headed before.
Yeah.
So when a person gets angry, the heat. Well, we've all seen the face go red. All of a sudden, all the energy is rushing up
To their head.
into a person's head,
Mm-hmm.
which makes them, well, kind of, yeah, like when someone's angry, they're the most important person in the room, and they they they're trying to gather the attention, and they feel that they need the attention at that time. It's usually why someone gets angry. They feel like they haven't been listened to, and all of a sudden they bust their gut, and they're like, "I've lost it. Everyone needs to pay attention to me right
Mhm.
now."
Yeah.
Because eventually we're going to get to an opposite. There's not right or wrong to this. But if you keep repeating it, you might have to get angrier and angrier and angrier just to get the same attention
Yeah.
that you're trying to form. But angry is an emotion that is saying focus on me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an outward expression that, because you're trying to have an outward expression that's going to penetrate into someone's field.
But not all blood go into the head.
No, it's more. So I got the nice little red picture there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of up and out,
Okay.
but not down. So
Okay.
think of the upper body. It's things are traveling outwards. They're traveling to the skin. It's pushing things out, but also up.
Yeah.
So we have this little directionality to
Yeah.
it.
The reason why I ask is in Hinduism, right, and in yoga, the most important posture is to hang upside down and have blood go to your head, right?
Mm.
So I was just curious of why that, in their eyes, that's a spiritual thing to help you meditate versus.
Which is neat because you're upside down.
Yeah.
So you're actually in a completely different spatial arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's say your brain, which it does this, I forget what the specialized neurons are called, but we have neurons in our brain that are basically mapping three-dimensional space. They basically map where we are in our field all day long. And how much of the day do we spend upside down?
Hardly ever.
Hardly ever, unless you're doing a backflip up in the air. We might even not reach that directionality once in a single day, unless you're some crazy yogi or a gymnast, or for some reason you got a back extension machine 3000 that a decompression machine,
Yeah.
whatever it is to get it going. But that can be super beneficial because they're just trying to get different directionalities in a day.
Mm-hmm.
It can be, but isn't it also a hindrance too?
A which?
A hindrance, like you don't want that blood flow going to your head all the time.
So again, back to that directionality because it's mapping everything. Because
based on your emotions, it maps, right? Wherever it goes.
How many times were we angry today, standing upright, and the blood rushed to our head? Okay, well, we got angry 6 times today, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, so again, it's counting frequency.
Only
Everything.
He was building his cape, but not now.
His
You
never.
can tell I'm a lot of tea stuff.
I hear a lot less F shots now.
Yes.
Amazing.
It's funny. Me and Sean went into the cave, and I'm like, this is actually the first time I actually enjoyed my cave.
Mm-hmm.
I was just
all
telling
those,
Sean.
Take
all
it in,
those
brother.
F shots and all those everything, and you go into the there,
Oh.
so worth it.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
No, but you can actually feel the selenite crystals come off the cave now.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before, when I was building it, I guess I was so angry I couldn't really.
And you know that transmutes into worse anger.
What?
When-
Really?
yeah, so when you're in there and you're in a bad headspace, it makes it worse because it amplifies energy.
But then why do people buy it for clearing?
I'm gonna put a spin on that.
Yeah.
Just because all your senses are being turned off,
Mhm.
so now everything has nowhere to go but in. So you have to feel all that anger all at once, and there's nowhere to hide from it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
'Cause yeah, which some people might not want to feel any of that stuff, and they'll stay far away from a crystal sensory deprivation cave.
Well, today, so I was doing crystals with a men's group. So I had them do a meditation with crystal and all that kind of stuff. And the first response, because they're in the men's group needing help, was they didn't want the energy of the rose quartz because it was a fear-based thing, love. Because I was talking about unconditional love, and at first it made them agitated, because it was like love,
Mm.
something that they need
Love is
craving,
dangerous.
but they don't know
They don't know
how
how
it
to accept
feels.
it.
Yeah, yeah, they don't know how to accept it. So
Typical
yeah.
for someone, they felt love, and then their life got smashed into gajillion pieces,
Mhm.
and love becomes associated with
Yes.
Devastation.
Humpty Dumpty
heartbreak,
crap.
Yeah.
Like they just,
Mhm.
I don't want to feel that again because I don't want to go through that all again.
Sad.
It is, well,
It's
yeah.
sad when you try to go like express love to someone, and then it creates a fear base within them because as a kid they were traumatized, and then as soon as you try to give someone nurturing, their nervous system's like, well, this my parents used to fight, so therefore I have to react like that, right? And that goes with the
Complete.
direction, right?
Mm.
Because as soon as there was a calmness, their nervous system all of a sudden reacts bad to it because it reacts into the parents
Just
fighting.
stillness. So now see what we're doing here? Now we're relating everything to directionality because there's a stillness, meaning, okay, because we've all fucking met someone who's just addicted to drama. Addicted, you know, okay.
I love it how you
You know,
laugh first.
but like, okay, I'm just gonna be blunt. We're on the res here right now.
We are.
And then so you just, it's all around sometimes. And there's some people are just waiting for that next thing. And that's constant exterior stimulus. Because without that, everything gets quiet and it starts to go more inward and inward. Because we're trying to get to the heart. The heart is the representation of stillness. It's the 0 point where everything unfolded from. Like our very first stems, like our very first cells was a heart in creation, then a spinal cord and the limbs and whatever. But that unfolding of the self comes from the heart. So that's that point where we're in complete stillness and we're in complete balance as a human being. And then we're in our mother, we're in a different resting state. But again, with that drama, we love just getting pissed drunk and watching cops come over and, or like just addicted to it because, you don't want to look inwards. You don't realize you don't want to change. It's an extreme aversion to looking inwards and having to deal with that feeling that arises. But that's where like changes of perception come from.
Well, that's where bottled up comes from. You're bottling up your emotions, right?
Yes.
By drinking.
Because
Even if you're not drinking, you're still, and you just quiet, you bottle up, right?
absolutely. And so it's not necessarily you have to go in for change because some people get locked in internal expression with their energies. This is called this is depression. Sadness, depression is. We'll get those in specifically in a bit, but it's the opposite of the outwards expression, where people have just been looking inwards at themselves much too much. They're overanalyzing things. They're saying they're looking at their body, their residual image. They have this chatter brain that's like, oh, you shouldn't do this. Oh, like it keeps going on and on. And what quite often in that state, it needs to get broadened out of the internal and it needs to re express itself externally. because the energy's been inside too long, and the cycle needs to express itself.
And that's why people have waves of depression, like for 3 months, and then they're super jittery, and then they're super active after that.
So-
That whole sort of.
So you can see this. This is great because you can see this in a high frequency or a low frequency. What he just described was manic depression,
Yeah, manic depression.
but you can see someone who have winter sads. They can be manic.
The winter blues, right?
They can do the winter blues, and they can do it summer highs. You know, they're on the patios all night long, fucking party machine, and that's a frequency of the seasons, which is more natural, I would say. But again, but you could see someone who goes up and down every 3 weeks. You could see someone who goes up and down 10 times a day, and that's their individual frequency. The extreme highs and the extreme lows, and that's where they're working on regulation.
What you call bear clan?
Do you say Ridge Claw Bear?
No,
Bear
it's
Clan?
not.
Uh-huh.
Oh, everybody wakes up as bear.
Uh-huh.
When you're a bear clan, you wake up and you're just like, oh my god, just
I
let me sleep.
I do. That's the thing.
You would never know a bear clan.
You would know. You definitely know she's bear clan.
And here's the wild part: we all have our different directions, and because we have it, that's how we have our spatial awareness with each other. And family and community is a hell of a teacher because you can see the infinite. Well, you know that guy's ending up in jail. That's his direction.
Yeah.
And then you know not to go into that direction because that's going to affect the rest of your entire life if you fall in the shoes of Jimmy, who's a retard. Like, maybe bad word now, but we know I'm just making up names. Don't be like Jimmy. Your mom told you not to be like Jimmy. Don't be hanging out with Jimmy. Shit, my kids are hanging out with Jimmy. Why don't they listen to me? Whatever it is, that's a bad direction. And we have these examples in space as human beings. They can teach us.
Darn Jimmy.
I don't know. Jimmy's always messing things up.
Yeah.
My best friend is
Jimmy?
was in prison. No, was in prison a lot, and then I guess something happened to him where he changed his life, right? So, and that's what I mean. The direction can always go.
Well, we're hoping that's we're hoping that's what those institutions do or can do, rehabilitate so someone can turn their life around.
Oh, he kept on
And-
escaping.
So a forced expression of trying to sneak through containment.
Yeah.
So you see how there's these constant analogies to direction, and soon we'll be able to apply them to literally everything all around us, all the time. And it could become a subconscious thing because we've given enough conscious thought that it can just be in our thoughts all the time.
Yeah.
Some of these carrots.
Oh, yeah. Would you like a carrot?
No, okay.
Would you like a beet?
No,
Would you like a celery?
no.
How about a cauliflower?
What would you call it?
Cauliflower.
It sounded like you said clay flour. I was like, what? Could be.
So on actual pulses, so we said anger does what?
Go up.
And
Outward.
Outward.
so what would you expect someone's pulse to be doing if you feel it on their pulse?
So that would be the high.
So there could be a okay, so we'll get into this more in the future, but
Mine would be a good to feel right now because I'm really angry at my husband.
yes, but I wonder how good you are at regulating it,
Good.
masking it. We're getting too personal here.
I'm a bear.
Who's
So
who's
the bear can sleep through it,
No, she can't.
or attack and
She can't.
bite your tail off.
But her middle pulse is the highest.
On the right side,
Mm-hmm.
so that is the liver pulse, and that it deals with the emotion of anger.
See, I
I
told
feel
you.
attacked.
I feel,
No
told
worries,
you.
we're all friends
Take
here.
this course, right?
We're definitely in the personal room here. So that's the singular pulse, right? So we'll get into this in a bit, but that position, each organ has its own emotion. If you might just know this through other traditions. Chinese medicine has its own little. Either all these things, all these schools, we're just trying to find a system, a perspective that we can look through to find meaning. And so we have the liver expressing anger,
Mhm.
but then each pulse position has its own pulse quality. But if someone gets really angry, that's going to pass positions. It's going to start spreading to all the pulses.
Yeah.
It's going to start,
Okay.
their whole body is going to become that pulse.
Mhm.
I feel like
Like-
my whole body could be that pulse.
And it can, like I have, like, any times we've been in a rage, that is, if we've entered a rage,
Mhm.
we've gone into all the pulses are expanding, and it means all systems go.
Beat the crap out of somebody.
Yeah, it could be blinding range, and because that brings us into a point of blackout as well, where the emotions become so intense and overwhelming that the conscious mind checks out, and it's like I'm not even going to be there to register this information. And now, when we try to look at our life, it goes, what was going on right there in that little spot? And then our brain has to
Connect the dots.
fill in the blanks.
Mhm.
And that's where we can hallucinate. Not necessarily full blown hallucinations, but I mean, that's where we can make stuff up, or certain ideas can pop in, or things that are false that aren't really a part of the pattern.
Todd Murphy talks about that. He says your right amygdala, when it gets overstressed, and then your left amygdala,
And now it's right amygdala is
And-
under stress.
Yes, it is.
pretty much that's what causes spiritual experiences, actually. So that's why you black out when
Hmm.
you're under so much stress, and then your body has to, and then your your right amygdala shuts off, and then your left amygdala happens, and then all of a sudden it comes into a certain synchronicity where you actually do have spiritual experiences.
Okay, so kind of like corpus callosum. So that's corpus callosum's its midpoint in the brain,
Mm-hmm.
where left and right hemispheres come together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very, very neat.
Yeah.
Got a bear. Yes. So we've seen anger. We found a pulse already. That's really cool.
Yes.
Just clear example. So yang is going to go out. Just as basic directions, yang is out,
Mm-hmm.
yin is in. So again, so if someone's feeling depressive, what can we imagine their pulses to be?
Depressed, did you say?
Yeah.
Would it be more of a silent heart rate?
Yep. So it's going to be slower, and it's
Yeah.
also going to be, because we're going to get more after we get through the emotions, but it's going to be deeper as well.
Okay.
So it's going to be slow, but it could be erratic. It depends if a person has
Where
waves
though?
of mania
Mhm.
traveling through them that keep spinning inwards and inwards and inwards in a never-ending loop. That's right. So example, just with anger, you feel your face get hot. We've all had the hot-headedness, and what's really cool, you start to hear these terms that kind of, yeah, like we'll get to like cold feet. Someone runs away at their wedding. These expressions are built in. Again, these are directionality, but they're also temperatures. And it's wild how much these have effect in our body depending on where they are, when they are, and if they're in the natural rhythms or an artificial rhythm or just a broken, crazy thing.
So today, if you're getting married, would you have cold feet?
Fucking hell.
Da-dum, da-dum, da-dum.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
So get the foot bath, get the Epsom salt foot bath, and we're gonna bring it back down. Or we were like, oh, we're forcing it much too
And I'm
much.
still running.
The jacuzzi suit from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist, eh?
The jacuzzi suit. Really?
Yeah,
You know,
I thought it was a real thing, and they just made it up. Can't hear you, I'm in my jacuzzi suit.
like jacuzzi.
And she's like, ah. Okay. So chest tightens. You feel the pressure rise towards your head because everything's moving up, everything's expanding. And so we were talking about the pressure from the atmosphere pressing down on in us. Well, let's say the upper half of our body is expanding. That's also going to okay, let's say our external shell is tightened. We're rigid, our muscles are tight, so everything's contracted. Nothing's our shell is hard as a rock. But things inside of us are full of hot, warm blood and are expanding. That's also going to increase the pressure in those areas, which can stop flow, it can squeeze flow, it can do all sorts of different things. Like it's just an infinite amount of different things. But we get an idea of clear visual idea of what can happen. What can happen? Your voice may get louder, sharper, and you feel that something needs to come out.
That's why I'm such a louder Italian.
I forget sometimes you're even Italian, Justin.
Yeah.
You're toned down as Italians go. Still appreciate the
I know
coffee.
you should have been around when he was building the
Yeah,
selfie. You would have
yeah.
known he was Italian.
He's saying louder.
No, it's like
saying louder. Yes.
I think I've said a whole bunch of Italian words. You would have told
He was teaching us
So-
Oh
Italian.
yeah, we know a lot of Italian swears now.
Since we started, I think since you started the cave, I think we've maybe had 5 or 6 conversations, and I could hear you from Toronto. Just in the background every once in a while. Oh yeah, he's probably here in this point in the cave right now. And
I bet you did.
his help has not arrived.
And they did it.
And I guess I'll have to spend a little bit more on that.
And he did.
But now what do you got? You got a complete structure.
He wasn't even here and he knows.
Oh my god, yeah.
But the swearing, I don't know how you say the words.
I know, Vafangul. I heard that one a lot.
they all sound like noodles. Spaghetti.
Whole bunch of bad ones.
Nana would just be shaking in her grave right now.
Technically.
Nah, she'd be like, attaboy.
No, my grandmothers are still alive. Just one of my grandfathers died. Yeah. I
It's
think
amazing.
no. Is he 94 or 95? I think he's 95.
You told me 94.
94. Okay.
That was
He had a
last year.
birthday.
No. Yeah, I
He has
know.
a fear.
Like,
He has a fear of
flies.
death, so that's why he's living so long.
And he said he wasn't
Makes
gonna
sense.
die till he was 100.
100. So he got a psychic reading.
Uh-huh.
That the psychic told him he's gonna live till he's 110, and by golly,
Oh
he's
my
living.
god. So he's
110,
Yeah.
birthday boy with those candles and blow them out and fall.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
I just had a client die. She was 106. You would never know she was that old.
Oh, it's wild
She
sometimes,
was
right?
walking around. The only thing was she needed her walker for because she was half blind.
Hmm.
That was it. Shit.
So again, so let's say
She's around more than me, better than me some days.
the older person, the heart slowing down, the muscle weakening, the pressure to bring things outwards,
Yeah.
getting weaker. Because you need our heart, like the seed inside of ourselves, the cardiovascular system, the branches. Same with our brain seed and our neurovascular branches, lymphatic system, whatever it is. But again, bring things out to the edges of our environment in our field. And eventually it just can't maintain that environment or it can't maintain that boundary bubble. And then she's slipping away, moving on.
That pressure.
This pop like a bubble.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be good if it just rained an hour, then one sunshine, and rained again, then because then your body's pumping. So your body wouldn't it actually heal more frequently than rather just having one rain.
It has those cycles within us. Just think about, okay, so let's say you have a warm soup and it's really hot, and then all of a sudden you stop drinking the rain.
What's in your soup?
Well, see, something
Just kidding.
tasty. And then, but again, when it rains and it gets really hot, what do you get?
You get ozone.
Perhaps you need lightning for ozone.
Oh, okay.
It's the crater. That's where you get that lightning smell. But you either get humidity or
Mhm.
you get fog. And so the body can go through those cycles where an organ heats up, cools down, heats up, cools down. If it's saturated with fluids, it's literally going to fog inside. Because we're trying to also see the body as an internal environment with its own weather systems, with its own rain. The heart has its thunder from the SA node. It's
Yeah,
like,
SA node.
thank you. It's SA node that's constantly going off. So we have this weather. We have all those I Ching cards inside of us. So similar, but different. The next one's joy. Is joy cold or hot?
Cold.
I think it's hot.
Warm.
It's a warm one. So it can be hot. It can.
You said hot or cold, so I had to pick one, but it's like
It's true. So expand like joy, or even like we could say love, joy. Joy is probably a better one. Kind of mixed in with a little bit of excitement. Also bring things up and out. Like you could win $100 on a scratch ticket. You might jump up. And so
actually, this must be cold.
Oh yeah. Coda, they gave me the wrong ticket.
My son, he's so lucky at
he's got the lucky
lottery
bone.
tickets. He is lucky. Like I can't believe how much he wins on those
He
tickets.
won like
It is a
$2,000
thing.
in less than a month in lottery tickets.
Amazing.
They still keep winning.
Because I got to be frank, there's two parts. Sometimes they don't tell you when they don't win, but some people are actually lucky. It's a phenomenon where they can be above odds. Above odds. If you believe your belief force and luck is strong, again, it's reaching out into the field. It's expanding. It's a yang expression.
To go grab it.
Yes, grab it. It's a little invisible hand saying need that one, and then it takes it.
Look over that end. Is it like everybody can see that?
Yeah, you're smack.
Anyway,
So we got the expansion outwards from joy, but even excitement can be too much. Have you ever heard a news story where someone wins the lottery and then they drop dead? Like they have a heart attack because they mobilize their blood too fast that they can't support the rhythm anymore.
If you win the lottery,
And that's a trauma. They can't
no, 'cause I'm
see
expecting it.
Okay.
it's just too much
Yeah.
all at once. Like all of a sudden we got $10 million in our hands. All of a sudden it's a great expansion how we can participate inside the world. You might not be able to see it. You might have, again, that expression of the shock. You might pass out. You might win the lottery and just completely pass out because you can't sustain the expression that you've just had. You've radicalized outward so much, so fast that there's not enough blood in the heart anymore.
Never thought of it that way.
Yeah, because the liver holds blood as well, and it likes to have a little cash. But again, same like when you're doing fitness, you're doing a sprint, you're doing martial arts, you're doing anything that moves the blood around. After a while, the organs are like, "Hello, we need our rent. We need our fuel back.
Yeah.
You can't stay out forever. You have to come back in because those structures need their life force as well." So with joy, we have an outward expanding motion. It's open, dispersive, it's relaxing because it kind of has its own, it creates movement. A lot of time we feel restlessness because something is stuck. We have a boulder in the river that's not moving. It's just stuck there. I like to think of we have a pimple in our body. We have some sort of debris there. And if it can't flow and it gets hot, its only expression is to be, so the heat's going to consolidate it so like it's thicker, and might turn into one of those stupid little pimple beads that you've ever had before. And but its only expression is to be able to come up and out because it can't flow in the river any longer. So when things flow, you tend to be quite relaxed and go with the flow and happy dory. But we can have things stuck, and there's nothing better than joy, moderate joy. Because now just with twist words, we're kind of differentiating joy from excitement or overexcitement. But everything's easier when you're in a joyful mood. Everything runs smoother.
Hear that?
That's,
I'm not there today.
that's not to say we can't have our undulations or our expressions, because we need to go through moments of sadness. But then that's bringing it into a greater rhythm that I'm going to call love. That's when we express everything. Like every emotion has its own flow.
Not today.
It's beautiful.
Good.
Not today.
Anger can be lovely sometimes.
It is.
Sometimes.
Again, everything having its expression. Like sometimes we need to be angry. Sometimes we need that external force. If something, literally, there's a robber coming to, or just someone coming to hurt you, keeping your cool would be better.
Yeah.
But that quick mobilization of energy externally will be really helpful.
Yeah.
Like if you're depressed and you can't even see the world around you, you're just gonna fall to the ground fast and not even know what happened.
Yeah.
If you can't mobilize your energy outwards. With practice and movements, and that's why it's so nice to just be able to experience everything, every direction in the day. Even just with his meditations, he was just talking about how he moves through space. You could do all these. You can't move. Just close your eyes and do the movements in your mind. Do the kneel, just spreading around.
Are you talking about the so I do
Yes.
actually do a meditation with that device, right? Because that actually works on your amygdala, like I was saying before.
Yep.
So if you imagine like space expanding behind your eyelids, you're actually triggering both sides of the right and left amygdala.
So basically, what
It actually enhances you. Like
so what
your
you're
psychic
you're
powers.
saying, yeah, because we have thought forms and movement, but combined with structure. So now you can have a structure of light that can move because you're combining those two aspects, giving it light structure, and then giving it expression structure in space. Combining those, that's pretty fantastic. But joy is a really amazing emotion. It's very helpful, I'd say, because we can pick a baseline for whichever way we want to go through life. We can go through life sad. We can go through life in shock. We can go through life in fear. Joy is my personal favorite. And again, love being the expression that you go through everything as naturally as you can. And the containment of them all is that expression. Okay, so with joy, you can feel open, expressive, outwardly connected to other people. Even your field is expanding. So someone with a joy, and just remember, these energy lines don't stop at our skin. They keep radiating further and further outwards. Again, your joy might be offensive to someone. but really, like just what we were saying with trauma, the joy might trigger someone because they don't trust joy. Someone's faking joy around them their entire life. Oh, you only act nice when you want something, and then it's just like so they don't trust joy any longer. They think it's a covert move to get something. But the energy field is still extending. It's still an expansion of the pulses. In excess, if joy becomes too excited, it becomes restless, it becomes scattered. Things can get exhausted, like you can't settle or contain your energy. Like eventually you'll start to get nervous. Like if you're in a high, because again, your energy field is expanding off in the space, and you might start to feel jittery, light,
Lightheaded.
yes, lightheaded, because again, your blood's mobilizing outwards, your organs are getting less, everything's getting less. So next one's one of my favorite ones because it is beautiful representation in Chinese medicine. So again, if you got a pencil or pen, just beside these, the first one, I want you to write the liver. And for joy, I want you to write heart. And now, just for the sake of complicating things, I want you to put a slash beside it, and then under it, I want you, for the first one, I want you to put gallbladder, because it's paired with the liver.
With joy?
Under
no,
liver?
with
Under
liver?
liver?
Anger, yep. And with heart, small intestine. And so now we're moving to the next one, which is pensiveness and overthinking. So now we have the spleen and the stomach.
I never thought that would be a spleen.
So that's one, it's a builder.
Stomach, I figured.
So that's where it's taking energy and thoughts. And think of these as baby new thoughts. And it's trying to build them into blood.
Yeah.
And come after the stomach spleen, the processing, it can enter the blood and into circulation. And now those senses are becoming awareness
Yeah.
as the thought grows and evolves.
Okay, that makes sense because I did have a client who was very pensive, and then she did have not Crohn's, IBS. So, and it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
I made a willow bark thing for her, and her IBS symptoms were gone. Told her to go spray it on her stomach to get rid of her, but even her lymphatic system was a bit better after that.
Mm-hmm.
All that, so it makes sense. And yeah, it was treating her lymphatic system too.
So overthinking,
Interesting.
trying to process too much stuff. And it's like literally drinking from the fire hose. Some people are, we've all done it before. Sometimes we literally drink from the fire hose and forget how to turn the thing off.
Yeah.
And we don't have the ability for assimilation. And so things like Crohn's, IBS. So it basically means the intestines are working overtime. Their metabolism is high. They're red. They can't process the speed of what things are coming in.
Yeah.
And so they don't have so they're shitting it out. Essentially, we got that tube. Let's draw another picture. Pictures are fun, right?
Not mine.
Not mine either.
Stickmen don't even help.
No.
So we got the.
Okay, well, at least you can paint.
So essentially, we got the mouth to the anus. And this whole tube, as we go through the mouth, stomach, small intestine, I'm just moving my pencil around, large intestine, out to the anus, that's kind of inside the body, but it's still an external internal.
Okay.
Until it's reached inside the blood, that's where it's really inside the body. And so there's so many things passing through this tube. So let's say there's I'm just using it nicely. There's 1,000% of stuff moving through this tube. The stuff that is making it into the blood, let's say, is only 50%. And they're not assimilating. I totally could have done this within 100, but we did 1,000 because they're just gobbling it all up. Oh, like 950% is just going right through, and they're not absorbing any of it. You have malnutrition. You're eating food, but you're not growing, because we just sometimes it can be food, but something in our life we can't stop doom scrolling all day long, or just we go from one project to the next project without bringing it in. We all got our stuff, so there's a little.
We're not looking at my mommy, Justin.
No.
So we've all again. there's times when we've done it a little bit, and there's times where we've done it a lot. Like sometimes we're literally in a high metabolic state. Sometimes we're in a slow metabolic state. And if someone enters a depressive low metabolic state, and then they're still trying to gobble up everything in front of them, they're never going to be able to process it. They're going to have constipation. It's just going to be so backed up that they need 10 colonics to blow that shit out their ass.
Suppositories don't work anymore.
Exactly.
Connie's workshop.
I love it.
You know, if you can process more stuff with joy and laughter and a good colonic reference, then
Yeah, why don't we do suppositories these days? Nobody ever teaches that. You don't even know what that is.
Yes, I do. I had to give my clients.
Oh, that's
some.
right. Yeah, you do. Yeah, that's true.
okay. So pensiveness, overthinking, the energetics of the stomach and the spleen. To create something,
That's her when she's thinking about her symptoms that she has, and she just overthinks it, and then she goes to the doctor.
No, I Google first.
She Googles and then she goes to the doctor mode. Terry.
so
That would be her pensiveness. Overthinking.
reverse here. Everything starts out as a thought form. So we start out with energy, and then we condense that energy until we have something solid. We basically just condense energy until we have a manifestation. And so you have the expression of itself, and overthinking tends to not things. This isn't good or bad. Like if you, whatever, I'll just explain things the way I want to explain. It's my class. So if you have we have streams of wind in space. We have galactic Birkeland currents. We have electrical charge between planets.
Yeah.
And these things combine together and essentially create a new star. They get birthed along these pathways. And it's the same thing for the spleen and the stomach. Energy needs to start binding together. But even that binding is causing a big blockage. Things are getting pulled into it. The flow is obstructed. But it's starting to create knotting and looping and all sorts of the energy inside instead of rapidly expanding. It's literally just knotting up in its own little ways. And can it process that? Can it create how often do we see a project through? Like, we have a 12-week we want to do a 12-week course, and we get 3.5 weeks in, and we're like, done. So, so
I finished the project and I committed
No.
to the project.
yes, it is officially complete.
But no, the last month was a tough one. I was like, I just don't want to do this.
Do I have to work on it today?
Exactly.
The only thing would have been cigarettes. If you didn't have cigarettes, then you could have been done in a week.
I don't know about a week.
Okay, less than a month for sure.
So this is random, but so I don't even smoke, but today's the first day I'm trying a nicotine patch.
Oh,
I cut it in quarters because it's actually supposed to be really helpful for the brain and
Yeah.
neuroinflammation.
Really?
Yes.
Nicotine.
Nicotine. In tobacco, who knew? But I'm actually being, like, it makes sense.
Oh, so I got French vanilla.
Whatever it is, but
On my diet.
They got
gets things flowing.
Zen Zennies. You could actually put them in your mouth.
Yeah, like these ones I just got because they're slow.
Yeah.
And I cut it in fourth because I don't smoke, so I have zero nicotine inside my body at all. Yeah. So again, so things are becoming knotted. This is the spleen stomach. But you get to week 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you may not have created it, and we might have knots all over us because we started thought forms that we've never ever finished or created. So that's where, and this can put a struggle on digestion. This can put a struggle on building blood.
What?
We,
Sorry, I have way too many questions. But if
whatever,
we
let's
were to
just do it here.
treat spleen and stomach, could we essentially get rid of that process?
Can you what about
Get rid of the process of people not finishing what they started?
what's the cause of the overthinking? Because you got to get rid of the overthinking.
Okay.
You give them a new activity, get something that clears it. Can they take an Epsom bath 3 times a week? Can they get into a salt cave?
Yeah.
Can they do a sensory
And you
deprivation
never,
chamber?
like, is there too much
Sometimes.
salt? Like to have 3 Epsom baths?
No,
and a
too
salt
much salt.
cave?
I'm like,
No.
I don't think so.
You're a bad.
Magnesium.
Unless you're like trying to be dramatic or something. Because it's good unless you like if you want to keep going, it can relax you. Be like, I'm so relaxed. I don't even want to start that again. I don't think I'm gonna go to work today. I'm gonna take a day off.
Oh, I might have to do that on Sunday.
So
I don't
again,
go to work tomorrow.
We got nodding, binding, and stagnation. Chi is starting to knot up. So again, quick overcap. Gallbladder, or sorry, liver, anger. We have up and out. Joy, we have all directions, up and out, but much more gentle, unless it's excitement. And then spleen, we have chi binding and knotting together because it's trying to start a brand new manifestation. So chi is knotting up, it's binding together.
Can turn it off.
So next one we got worry. These are where they kind of mix together. Worry and sadness are very close together. They're kind of all under the auspice of, let's say, lung and large intestine, the two blue ones. Okay, so for worry, we have inward. Again, so now we have the opposite. Those first two ones we were doing were going outwards. And then we had something that's coming binding. And then now we have the energy generally moving inwards, but also downward. Contracting, it's restraining, as well as it's also weakening. It's an inward motion. If things stop flowing, it can tend to pull you inwards. You can feel a subtle tightening in your chest or stomach with your energy pulling inward. It can feel heavy or burdensome. So it's kind of like the pressure has been turned up and you're turning the focus inwards. So worry after a while can cause depression. Same with guilt.
Because all cellular memory is bringing back into the cell.
Well, it's constant self-reflection.
Yeah.
If we get stuck in a loop instead of a spiral, we're constantly repeating things over and over and over and over. We keep gnawing and gnawing on the same thing, which is a little bit of the spleen too. It's like that knotting with some inward motion. You're examining the self versus the world. Inward is examination of the self. Outwards is examination of the world. So by the way, so you might be already realize, again, you can look at a personality and who has inward personalities and who has outward personalities.
Virgos have more inward personalities.
And as general rules, you could even just, if you start applying that to your astrology, you might be able to understand their pulse before you even, like if you look at their chart, you might be able to know their pulse. You take their pulse, they're like, man, you're a psychic. you know me. But you know the pattern of them.
Yeah.
You just know how that is expressing and sharing that understanding of the pattern. Back to the very first thing when we started this conversation, you're sharing a coherent pattern that they can start, even if they don't understand it, they can start organizing themselves around that organizing principle that you just shared with them.
So if you're angry, then you go to sadness, then you're balanced.
It can get that's again that's a natural undulation. You can't stay angry forever, and if you peak high, you're going to peak low. You might get so angry you might never be able to get back up, or the proverbial rock bottom. Highs, whatever. They do the math for 4 days straight. They're terribly, terribly high, and then they're sleeping for. They wake up 3 days later, because that's a terrible, terrible low, and trying to restore everything.
That's really downtown Hamilton.
It's a hot spot.
I've never seen. There's zombies.
It's
It's bad.
I was asking this as what is the medicine or drug that people take that makes them like do the forward stand? Like, you know, the
Oh,
people,
yeah,
the
when
people
you're
are
standing
stuff
there
like
from
this.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
some of it,
that's fentanyl, I think.
is it
crack
fentanyl?
or fentanyl?
It's fentanyl.
Or does it have to mix both together to get there?
I think it's
I don't know. I
fentanyl.
see
It's
them
kind
doing
of a
it.
joke,
When
but
they do
it's still
crack,
serious.
though, I heard like when you're a crackhead, you don't even get high. You get high for 2 minutes, but it's the feeling of that high that they get addicted to. So they're like just constant. Like it's not like when you smoke a joint and you're freaking buzzed out for an hour. When you take a hit of a crack pipe, it lasts like 2 minutes.
So I'm just gonna make shit up right
Not
now.
that I've ever done it.
So I'm just assuming, and these thoughts will build on themselves later. But that's affecting their directionality. They have their spine, which is the foundation that supports you, and they're folded at a completely opposite angle, and it's like, like a perpendicular wave. Basically, there's two opposing versions of themselves. One that's trying to go up, and one that's trying to go completely opposite direction. But their balance is living in two worlds, two opposite directions. Okay, so sadness and grief. This is one that you might see a lot in your pulse taking diagnosis. Sadness and grief, a person's going internal, they're reflecting, they just lost a loved one. So they're going inwards, they're going into the Rolodex of their memories. Just kind of looking at stuff, which is really good, but this is part of the letting go process as well. So when we get to the actual pulse diagnosis in a little bit, it's actually very interesting. We'll go over this again, but when a person has this deep grieving sadness, their pulse will be really, really, really deep. But when they're letting go, it's going to come up to the surface.
What do you mean deep?
So,
Strong?
so I haven't know. So we'll get there. We'll get there in a little bit. But deep literally means you have to push down really far to feel the pulse versus the surface.
Like what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a.
So when so you use a light touch like this, but sometimes you don't feel, so you have to put more pressure.
Oh, I got
Bingo.
you.
So when someone's letting go, we'll do this a little bit more, but a cold, if someone's letting go of something inside of themselves, it can be an expression of rejection, it can be releasing something. It's going to be strong and powerful. So it's letting go of something through the organs of the lungs and, the sinuses, whatever their expression is. So 9 times out of 10, if someone's just getting a cold, they're going to have a thundering powerful lung pulse. Unless, let's say they're old and they're frail and their body doesn't have enough energy to push whatever it's trying to push out. But someone young and vital is going to have that energy.
And that's why flavonoids are so good for colds, right?
I can't think but the flavonoids very well.
Flavonoids, okay, so apple pectin
Yeah.
has a lot of flavonoids in them, right? And that will help circulate blood. So that's why vitamin C works. Right?
I'd have to research them again, but I know they all have very interesting colors.
Yeah.
So they have color, light spectrums. Colors are a form of energy that we're ingesting, and certain organs need that light. That's as much as I know about flavonoids right now.
Okay.
So inwards, sadness, the pulse is going to be really deep, introspective, could be strong, but deep. Sinking, collapsing, dispersing chi, but inwards. The chest could feel heavy. The posture drops, a little bit more. Ever seen a sad, defeated person? They're just like, I can't even hold myself up anymore. My head's down. There's the outward force is not there. It could even get so far that compressing back into the little, curl up in bed into a ball. That's extreme depression. That's a sadness. Moving really inwards. It can be sentimental and spiritual as well at the same time. They're symbolic, but it's good to work through these things. So we have an inward pulse. You may feel like you don't have the energy to project outward. Again, so self-reflection. And this is also a water element. So we can look at these two again. The yang elements being fire associated with expansion. With water, it just sinks and fills in cracks and goes wherever the already form is there takes it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Water's more.
if
Yeah,
someone
he's
takes it
He's just describing that.
Oh yeah. I
too
know.
far, they're just gonna get swept away. Kind of like some people, they just such a water personality type. They go with the flow for so long. They haven't made a plan in 5 years, and they're like, "How the fuck did I get here?" Because they never had a plan or whatsoever. No structure. They're just water for too long, and didn't chart the course.
So what are the other elements to these other ones then?
Good
So
question.
liver would be fire.
So we got spleen is certainly earth. So this is 5 elements.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you which way to do it. There's the ancient way and there's the newer way. So we're going to just do the ancient way for right now. So we have earth. Okay, it's actually a mixture here. So if you want to draw this, you start with a square. The square is in the middle, and that's earth. And then you have the fire above, the water below. To the west, you have metal, tiger. You have metal element, and then you have wood to the east. Wood to the east, it's like new growth. Things come out of, and this is also a seed, by the way. You can explain that in the seed, but I don't think we'll go into that right now. So, as to your question,
That makes sense. 'Cause
So-
the seed will have heat from the sun, then have water, and then that creates pressure, and that pressure can become wind, which then can become wood, which then establishes roots, which then can be
And it's-
metal.
and so wood tends to be rapid growth.
Yeah.
So it's expansion very fast. Again, because we're saying it's that quick outward movement of energy.
So that's anger.
Yes. So technically, the plants are all pissed off in springtime.
Yeah.
But so it's not a bad thing. It's an expression. Like they're seeds, and all of a sudden they shoot up this fast, like this tall, this fast, and then they're like that for the next 3-4 months until they go to seed. Rapid expression. And you can actually start, like, you can feel patterns in people's pulses based on the weather. It's they should change with the season, and that's advanced pulse taking.
Mhm.
It takes time. You have to just feel and sense them long enough to be able to develop the pattern recognition
Mhm.
of what that is. So anger is technically under. So these are actually all mixtures,
Okay.
but under the classic 5 element, anger is liver, which is wood. Joy, heart, is fire, and spleen, stomach, is earth. So, and then again, because there's more emotions than there are 5 element. So the next ones are going to be lung and large intestine, and that's going to be metal.
So for both of them.
Yes, yeah, for both. And then for fear, we're going to have water.
Okay, you said that sadness was water.
So, okay, yeah. So this is where it overlaps a little bit. There's not to get confused, because this lungs and large intestine tend to be paired with metal, but they still have those water tendencies of moving downwards. 5 element is relatively new. Like 5 element only came out in like year like 600 or 500 or whatever it was, and it became a standard. Versus before, there's all sorts of different.
Well, trigrams, right? The level of trigrams shows you the variations of yin and yang and the elements associated with it, right?
Mhm.
So if you kind of, if I think of it like the 8 trigrams, I kind of understand it, right? So versus just putting in that box and how it becomes a seed. That's the
Exactly.
best way I go with
So
it.
just the perspectives. So fear, we have the water, and then we have the kidneys, and the urinary bladder.
Think of tarot. Tarot, water represents emotions, and it's held by metal.
Yeah, because water, you know, it holds all things.
Yeah.
Yes. And then shock, we're not even going to put an organ on it. We're just something that could affect any single organ.
Cellular member.
So fear. Fear, think of it like a reverse anger. The pit of your stomach drops so fast. All of a sudden it's and you feel this sinking. It's like you lose your core energy. We've all felt like the floor has been pulled out from us, or literally just we think there's someone creeping behind us, and you feel that sinking feeling, and that's your chi literally shooting down really, really fast. So again, if someone's pulse, if you could feel someone's pulse as soon as it if you could feel someone's pulse as soon as the scary movie scared them, it would probably go very much
Yeah.
inwards, and then it would
It'd be rapid.
freeze. Well, yep. So it would, for a little, you probably get one big long pulse, and then it would come and it'd be like a spring, and that would just cause the undulations, because fear tends to freeze things in the body. It because the body doesn't. This is a representation of fear. Whenever the body doesn't know how to process something, it freezes it because it's saying, okay, freeze it, pause the movie. I need to figure out what this is. Yeah, I need to know. I need to look at this more because I'm not ready to move forward until I figure this out. And then things can literally stay frozen inside of a person's body for years. Just whatever traumas, they get stuck in place while other aspects and parts of the personality keep moving forward and it gets frozen in place. So it's downward, inward, sudden drop, kind of freezing. Descending, destabilizing, losing support, like your feet, you know, his legs just buckled out because they're frightened so much. Like so, you know, we've all. If you're an interesting person, you jumped out and tried to scare one of your friends, and they might every friend reacts differently, but some just
Or some try to
and
beat your ass.
they could you got to be careful with who you scare.
Yeah.
You got to know your friends and know what you can get away with.
Yeah.
Know who's gonna hit you.
My kids won't scare their mother anymore. He grabbed me from under the stairs and
Oh my
I booted
god.
him right in the head, Vince.
Oh.
Just-
No.
So he got her instincts. He got your reaction. And you better be prepared for someone's reaction.
Yeah.
You didn't even think. You're just like,
Yeah.
or maybe you did. It doesn't. Like, who knows? But it's.
But he always knows that I think that whenever I go up the stairs, that
Something's
somebody's
coming.
gonna grab my feet, and he freaking did it.
I don't know if you guys seen that old AFV video, but there's the person who's like hiding in the garbage can, and he jumps up and scares the person. The person's just like not even thinking, just like he jumps like boom, and that's a reaction. So the fear can be descending, destabilizing. You lose your support, sudden drop in your stomach or your dantian, lower dantian. It depends. But we've all felt that scattering of energy, which is more for shock, but it's a little bit different with fear because fear is dropping, sinking. They have this term called running piglet chi. That's
I like that.
yeah, it's Chinese thing. But again, that sudden drop, because it usually needs to get treated afterwards, some way to raise that energy back up and unfreeze it. Yet you might feel shaky or unstable. Be interesting to experience inner shake. So the seventh emotion is shock, and this one's really interesting because it makes the chi move chaotically. So like let's say someone gets hit by a car. Well, not hit by lightning, but hit by a car without knowing it, their chi's going to move in all sorts of different directions. So it's going to be like this. It's going to be like
It's like
this.
shock where like you can't even feel anything.
It doesn't know it's literally it. If you were a sheet of glass,
Yeah.
it shatters it into
Yeah. So
a
like
whole
my
bunch of
daughter
pieces.
just dislocated her kneecap in hockey.
Uh-huh.
She don't remember passing out, but and she doesn't when she came to, she wasn't sore because she was in so much shock.
So that shock, and shock tends to cause an aspect of fear. The shock happens, it's traumatizing. It takes the chi, makes it very
Mhm.
chaotic. You've entered the void, you don't know up from down any direction because everything is pure shock. And that tends to cause a fear.
And that fear happens when she got back on the ice, and now she's very apprehensive of
The fear, mhm,
doing the same moves that she did because she's scared it's gonna happen again.
yeah, which causes the freezing. So the freezing, it's stuck in place until whatever can come. As soon as awareness can really get, as soon as that moment that's stuck in the past can make it to the present, it'll melt. It'll melt and integrate with the rest of the waters of the system
Mm-hmm.
and be integrated. But shock is a very interesting one because we've had our own small little shocks, and it's clear rolling into fear is very interesting. And from that fear, all sorts of things can happen because fear, because the shock also causes confusion. And if that, like that can turn into things like PSTD, where basically there's confusion and the person can get angry. Well, basically start repeating the event. And that causes the confusion, and then they can feel angry or sad or hiding because they're not synced up to the environment anymore. They could be in the middle of a person's wedding and they're acting like lunatics because all of a sudden something that moment just got summoned up and all that shock came up to the surface. Usually it's in a little hidey hole in the body, like in a small blood vessel or a lymphatic system or deep in a fat cell. Or if it's really deep, it'll be inside the bone marrow. And
That's bad though. That because detox your bone marrow, right? Like all that stress that got stored into the bone marrow. That's when things like varicose veins happen. Then
so varicose veins tend to happen first.
yeah,
So like if we look at things, chi, blood vessel.
and that's why the one of the qigongs is called the washing of the bone marrow,
Yep.
right? And that would be very important for someone with varicose veins.
Okay. So we got these different levels. We got the chi, the blood, the lymph. So we have the chi, which kind of like think of like a day. You're like, okay, I'm not going to deal with this today. And then you have the blood vessels where you can take things out of circulation and put it into the little tiny vessels where it's like, okay, I don't have time to deal with this right now because I gotta go take my grandma to the old home. Like I got things to do. I don't know. But
I gotta take my grandma to get
sorry,
groceries.
I gotta get,
You don't have to take her to the old home.
and I gotta pick the kids up from school, and I gotta cook supper. So so that's where you put it into somewhere for like 1 to 4 weeks, and then okay, well I'm not dealing with it now. Let's put it into a denser tissue, the lymphatic. It's more thick and sticky. I'll deal with this in 3 months to 3 years from now. And then the last one's the kicker. Let's put it into the bone marrow. My fucking kids can deal with it. It'll become the offspring's problem. Because now you've made it into your genetic makeup. So if it becomes part of the kids have to resolve it now instead of you. So you hand it off to your genetic line.
But that can be still taken out. So
Absolutely.
With qigong, right?
Well,
All that genetic
same.
material.
You can inherit something and you start bringing it out and expressing it. And bring it again. So instead of things going in, you're bringing things back out. You're getting rid of generational trauma that's deep inside the core of the individual and expressing it outwards. You guys are getting the special course today, everyone.
Yeah.
It's radically different depending on who's here. But great. So with that,
Just let you know, I have to leave at 4 only because I have
We got
I have to-
we're recording it as we speak.
oh, you're recording. Yeah, I have to pick something up in Burlington.
okay.
Yeah.
So with that still, we're gonna take a break. We're gonna take a little half-hour break and kick it back up again because we've been going for a